I'm here with the president of Ultimate Medical, Dr. Nick Delgado, who recently had some stem cell treatments, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about that today. Dr. Nick, where did you first go to learn about stem cell treatments? And I mean, where does one do that sort of thing?
Well, I think like most people, I learned about stem cells in the popular press. I became intrigued, so I started doing some research, and I met with some of my colleagues who I consider to be world authorities. Fortunately, they were willing to meet with me due to my long-standing association, and since I'm a researcher and expert in anti-aging therapy and treatments and fitness and diet, they agreed to meet with me, and I was able to interview them, discuss treatments, and then I started finding the expansion in terms of what could be done, not just for the general public, but I started getting excited about the possibility to help my son, who was born with autism, it's a clinical condition of mental retardation. And then I started searching for some other extended uses, because I thought I'd better undergo the treatments first before I have my son, who's now 19 years old, have the treatment. And then I started realizing that it might be a revolutionary treatment approach for anti-aging.
So you've decided that you're gonna get these treatments. Okay, you're resolved. You're gonna get these treatments. Where in the world does a person go to do something like that?
Well, as I mentioned, I consulted and met with some of the pioneers in this area, and like with many areas of science, there's generally what we call the research and development phase. There's publications in medical journals, there's research going on at major medical universities around the world, but there's always those pioneers who are willing to go beyond the petri dish, the laboratory, the animal experiments, and start looking at maybe the human applications. What first caused me to feel that it would be a legitimate treatment was its safety factor. Its safety record showed that over a 15-year period, with more than 5,000 treatments ranging for over 66 different diseases, mainly blood-borne diseases, the safety record was nearly perfect. Virtually no one had any negative side effects from using human cord blood as opposed to embryonic blood.
No, that's a good point. You bring up the cord blood. We hear a lot in the news. There's a lot of stigma about stem cell research and treatments. How is cord blood any different from, say, embryonic?
There's a few very specific important differences. One, the popular press, including the President of the United States, has jumped on this controversial issue of embryo-derived stem cells. The problem with embryo-derived is not so much its efficacy, whether or not it works, but the problem is that its origin. Some people were concerned that some people might extract embryos prematurely from either abortion clinics or some other, if you will, unethical manner. Most of the clinics in the world that were studying it, though, certainly had that in mind, and they were very careful about their obtaining lineages. That is, they would get a stem cell of some origin and then replicate it in petri dishes, preserve it, and then create what we call stem cell lines. And the president even approved. He said, look, there's a certain number of stem cells that already exist, so we're going to governmentally legislate that these existing stem cells can remain, but any new stem cells we're going to oppose. Well, that approach wasn't taken by other governments, namely Singapore and some other countries, which I visited and met with some of their top scientists. So in those countries, they're rapidly moving forward with research in this area. But you asked the original question about the difference between embryo-derived and cord blood. The great thing about cord blood is there's virtually millions of births across the world, and generally speaking, what we're talking about is the placenta, the connection between the baby, the umbilical cord, to the mother. And after birth, when they separate that, there's a whole bunch, millions of stem cells that's just naturally available to be harvested, rather than discarding something that wouldn't have harmed the mother or the baby and discarding it with no purpose or use. We, in some countries, have been able to obtain that vitally important cord blood, extract out these viable stem cells, and preserve them in nitrogen freeze after we've tested them free of HIV, free of disease, virtually every kind of known viral type exchangeable disease, bloodborne, and preserve them and go a step further and separate them from red cells, white cells, so there's little or no concern about rejection of host versus graft.